And I want to say this to the
YouTube
audience. I made my mistakes. But in all of my years of
grifting,
I have never profited from
racism.
I've earned every cent. And in all of my years of
racism,
I have never obstructed
spear chuckers.
And I think, too, that I can say that in my years of
racism,
that I welcome this kind of examination, because people have got to know whether or not they're
grifter, racist.
Well, I'm not a
spear chucker.
The BBC were ambitious. They always wanted the show to be bigger. They just believed in Doctor Who. It's an old, fantastic tradition. The BBC had plans to supersize it. And here we are. I absolutely agreed with everything they were planning.
RTD, you're lying to me. Every word you say is laced with tons of data. You gotta keep lying, cause the show is dying. Protect the BBC.
There isn't an official Bible, and a lot of it's in my head. I do know the entire television history, so there's a lot of flexibility. But yes, I do have a list of not a list of rules. The timelines got mixed up, and I'm a little bit more diligent.
RTD, you're lying to me. Every word you say is laced with tons of data. You gotta keep lying, cause the show is dying. Protect the BBC.
Their lead actor needs to be limitless. I want someone who's good at everything and describe, and we've absolutely got that with Bishopï². It needs to feel very safe for a young audience to come and watch it. There's a kind of childlikeness to the Doctor that fits children.
RTD, you're lying to me. Every word you say is laced with tons of data. You gotta keep lying, cause the show is dying. Protect the BBC.
He's a smee. He's a smee. He's a smee. He's a smig. Hey.
Demand presence at unsafe levels. Lockdown.
Damn you! Sutek gets filmed in front of a live studio audience.
Damn you, Sutek!
This show ain't no good.
Start the car.
Yeah! Well, yeah. hello, Whovians, Truvians, and Trivial Trans fans. How are everybody? It's WhoTF Live. It's Sunday, which of course means it's time to discuss all the dissecting, disgusting, dribbling, drool, and occasional decency from Doctor Who. Of course, that means it's Christmas time now. We have no more thanks grifting. Hope you had a lovely thanks grifting, but we will be moving on to Christmas just as soon as we do our final thoughts on villains of the show. We'll also be covering a little bit of news. Well, it's not really news, it's more of another pathetic copium article from a fan rag that, you know, is just full of shills trying to explain the ridiculous ending of season 14 and making it all about a whistle and so much other crap like that. So welcome to the show, and before we move into everything else we'll be doing, let's say hello to our panel. I'm joined as always by my regular panelists, Mr. Ryan Rogerate, Mr. Problematic White Guy, aka John, and Mr. Price of Reason. Ryan, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, Will. It's always a pleasure to be on this fine show. I'm crossing my fingers, hoping that Doctor Who dies in 2025 so that we can have a third topical show a week. I think Doctor Who deserves
it. Might happen.
Fingers crossed. Hope for the best,
Awesome.
but prepare for the worst. But it's great to be here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure we'll have a fantastic talk about all things Doctor Who. I had a fantastic time on Hypnotic's Saturday Night Hypnosis, where I roasted a Jaffa cake. And the guy was so desperate for attention, he was actually live at the same time, and he shared his, I think, show link for everyone in the chat. He was that. Yes, I had the exact same reaction, Will. The man is cooked.
The internal link to invite people into the panel.
Yes.
Muppets.
That's something you never, ever do. And I got flack for pointing that out, mind you, by a guy who's thinner than my little finger. But in all seriousness, ladies and gentlemen, everything is well. Everything is fine. Now on to the problematic white guy.
Wait, who shared the link?
Jaffa Cake.
Oh,
David Jaffa
yeah.
Cake.
Oh, okay.
Dave Jaffe of Twisted Metal and God of War.
And then just a
I'm
whole
going to
bunch
say
of SJW
legacy
Spurgman.
because I wouldn't. I'm not going to say fame at this point in time because he's more infamous in the last few weeks for being a complete and utter jackass.
Yes. Been paying attention. Jaffe's always been a complete and total sycophantic, hypocritical leftist SJW cuck for years. But go ahead, man.
Yeah. So you see, I'm cell shaded today. Still having tech issues, but I figured out a way to at least have something, so I'm not just doing the shifty eye, unless people really like that. In which case, I guess put it in the chat, and I'll switch to the shifty eyes. But, yeah. Well, I initially wanted it to be kind of like a Max Headroom kind of thing, and I think it's actually kind of doing that. So that's yay. Points for me. But yeah, not too much going on. Just a regular Sunday. Let's get into some Doctor Who, and on to you, Mr. Price of Reason, sir.
Yeah, hey, what's up, guys?
You good? Yeah, you. It's your intro, bro.
Ceiling?
Yeah, I'm kind of chill. I'm not much of an intro man. I'm happy to be here.
That's okay, man. Well, I appreciate you coming along, of course, as always. As for me, it's been a weird week. Was sick for the first half of it and trying to catch up with the second half. I would have been on SNH. I had plans to be on SNH, but then I was kept up quite late, and it turned out that everyone and their mum wanted to be on the show, so I decided to give up my spot and get some sleep instead. But I'll be back next week. That's fine. It seems like I didn't quite miss out on anything as electric as I thought I was going to. It's more like a clusterfuck toward the end. So that's fine. I'm happy to watch it rather than be on it and be frustrated in that situation.
It was an IGN 7 out of 10. The first 90 minutes were a solid 9. I'd say the Avowed discussion was a 6. And towards the end, we were all just getting fucking tired. So there you go, folks.
See, I wouldn't have been able to bring anything to that table. I would have been getting frustrated from tiredness. I'm not a morning person.
A solid IGN 7 out of 10 show, but Nure was on it. So it's going to get
automatically
lots of people watching.
Simp clicks. Simp clicks. Yeah, we need a simp dog for this show.
I was there for all but the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, apparently my dad started
working
watching
on something.
He
possibly
realized. Say what?
I'm working on something for this show. Am I glitching? All right.
Yeah, work on your own stuff first, John.
You're just lagging a little bit. I don't think that's going to make it any better because the video is just a looping video. So it works.
We'll see.
But whatever. It's all the same old absolute professionalism, the mark of professionalism here at Will of the Fans. With me, Will. See what I did there? Of course, most of it usually is my fault. For example, I just realized I never updated the thumbnail, so I've done that while the intro was running. So that was nice, even though I made the thumbnail in the early hours of this morning when I couldn't sleep. So that really should have been done a long time ago. But we're not here for professionalism. We're here for authenticity, which we can handle in spades. And shout out to the people in the chat. We can see Mr. Grant Gregory is in the chat. He says would be on tonight, but he's not. Villain I love to hate, Vashta Narada. Oh, yeah, that's good. They took River and they never returned. That's a good point. Yeah, actually, yeah. We can talk about the Vashta Narada. Yeah, we've got obviously the mods are here. TJab Steve is here. Eris Rhoda's here. Mad Old Crow, Dividing Dragon, artooleetoo. Hello and welcome. Who else can I see? Tomby as well, Rio, and well, that's about most of the chat at the moment. So fair enough. If you want to join in the chat, then you go right ahead. But of course, don't forget, you can always ping us a super chat if you are feeling generous, and we'll be very happy to address whatever you have to say, even if it's just calling us idiots. Like, for example, Mudcrab, who couldn't stay to watch the show, but wanted to drop us $5 Australian before we get going. So thank you. Has made a habit lately of issuing these sort of what-if scenarios. All of them designed mostly to mock the fuck out of Ryan for never having seen Red Dwarf. But, you know, he says, okay, this one's harder. What is worse? Never watching Red Dwarf or being a musical theater kid and or interviewing alongside Ariana Grande?
Ooh.
It's a tough one.
I'm going to have to go with the second one this week. I mean,
really?
It's close. It's close. Yeah. Have you seen those interviews? I mean, they just get worse and worse.
She's a bubble-headed stick. She is.
Both
I've never
of them
had
are.
any for Ariana Grande. The most sort of actual human emotion she's ever elicited from me was when I found out she was on one of those Nickelodeon shows.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of trauma there, I'm sure.
Man. I can't remember which one it was that she was on, but I do remember her being told to act out trying to squeeze juice from a potato, an especially long and phallic potato that she had to wrap two hands around and squeeze right in front of her face.
Mm-hmm.
So that to me is the most notable acting performance of Ariana Grande's career. And as for her music, I mean, somebody dared to put her Christmas song on in the bar where I was having a drink recently, and I seized the remote and immediately put AC/DC on and told the bar staff to fuck themselves. So
Indeed.
That's what I think of Ariana Grande.
They both look like cannibals, Will. They don't have carnivore sickness. They have cannibal sickness, where they eat humans and then they get that sickness where they have to eat like an addiction more and more.
I don't know.
They seem to be skeletal. It's insane.
She is the thinnest I've seen.
People, though, they'd get more protein in their diet, and they wouldn't be so. I mean, they look like.
I mean, she's a vegan, so so she just looks like there's nothing sexy about her. The guys here all think she's really hot, and then you sort of look at a picture of her without makeup and like in a bikini or something at the beach, and it's like an albino Ethiopian.
I'm not into 12-year-old boys. No.
It's not even 12-year-old boy. It's like you can see the bones.
Skeletal.
You know what I mean?
This is Holocaust porn.
Yeah.
Oh.
Fucking hell. My God.
Jesus Christ, John.
Wow.
Holocaust porn.
What the fuck?
Yeah. You know, there's a certain strength that comes with being like, on a low tier channel that doesn't do too much.
What do they say on the Holocaust porn channel? Gas me, daddy? I mean, come on, John.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Here we go. Welcome to the Doctor Who show on Will of the Fans. We talk about Holocaust porn. What are we going to call it? Ausch tits? And the sequel, Ausch Klitz, and then the all anal final chapter, Ausch Shits. There you go.
Oh my God.
Honestly, I think I'd still rather have to suffer an interview with Ariana Grande, probably because I'd just make her look ridiculous, than have never seen Red Dwarf. Red Dwarf is a constant delight in my life, so I will never give that up.
I mean, I suppose you convinced me. I'm going to change my answer. I mean, what kind of addle-brained jackass wouldn't watch Red Dwarf, because I mean, yeah, we did just get like Holocaust porn out of an Ariana Grande,
I mean, where can we go from here? Yeah,
yeah.
There's really nowhere. Well, we might as well double down on it by ripping the absolute piss out of Shooty Gatwa and RTD and everything that they stand for.
Speaking of genocide, Shooty's arrived.
Here we go. It's the man himself, Dr. Hutu. For fuck's sake. All right. Well, we've got this ridiculous article. It's come from Screen Rant, of course, which is a purveyor of fluff. It doesn't actually, it's kind of like the tofu of news sources, as in, yeah, it exists. It fills up some more bandwidth, but it doesn't actually nourish you in any way, intellectually speaking. So it's like the rice of news, I suppose, in that respect as well. And shout out to all my Filipino friends. They're still addicted to that white poison. But anyway, we will have a look at this because this is a pathetic thing that I've discovered. I'm going to make a video about it myself as well, probably tomorrow. But they are still trying to explain away the end of season 14. So the way it works is, the usual cycle of SJW hyperreactivity to people criticizing something that they've decided to hitch their wagon to. Of course, first of all, it's, what are you talking about? This is perfect. It's immaculate. It's stunning. It's brave. It's the greatest ever. Then it's, yeah, okay, there are some issues. There are a few things wrong with it, maybe, but it was still so well done, and the acting was stunning and brave, and isn't Shooty delicious, and la 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 la. And now we're in sort of phase 3, where it's like, yeah, okay, guys, it's safe distance now. We can admit that it was a piece of shit, but we're still not going to actually call attention to any of the real key issues. We're just going to pin it all on one stupid thing, and then try and make that the big problem. And eventually, I guess, you have to wait 5-10 years for them to admit that it destroyed the franchise. We're almost there with Last Jedi now, only about 3 more years to go until they finally admit that that was the end of Star Wars. Yeah. But anyway, this is the article. Deleted Doctor Who scene explains a confusing part of season 14's ending. I thought it was series 14, but season 1 or 40. Oh, whatever. Anyway, Doctor Who season 14 was one of the show's more polarizing seasons. Wow, they wouldn't have written that 6 months ago. In recent memory, softly rebooting the series for new audiences while introducing a new incarnation of the Doctor. And that was not the Doctor, that was the Moctor. It was a controversial season for many reasons, but perhaps its biggest problem was the somewhat rushed ending. Oh, guys, did you know the ending was rushed? I've never heard that before. Ugh. Wow. They're actually saying things about the show that aren't, just basking in the glory of its existence.
Since when did Screen Rant hire racists?
Yeah, I didn't realize they had so many.
I thought it was stunning and brave.
Yeah.
All the way through.
Well, there you go. I guess, even the greatest golden apple will rot eventually. But anyway, it's so the biggest problem was the somewhat rushed ending that didn't fully bring everything together as smoothly as the best Doctor Who finales are known to do. Oh my god, you mean to say this wasn't the greatest episode of Doctor Who ever? RTD isn't a visionary genius? That there are actually some problems with this season? Well, we'll see. Obviously, you and I and you and I all know, and the chat knows, our various issues with the entire series from various earlier episodes of this show, as well as videos I've made. And of course, we have multiple issues with the finale. Paradoxical things going on. I'll explain it all later because I've already left a comment on this article. Mm-hmm. So, apparently, they're now calling the date, which is the anniversary of Doctor Who Day, every year now instead of just every 10 years.
It's a Who Day. Yes, it is.
Feel the power. Anyway,
that's set to explode on Monday. They're on their 10-year anniversary of the New Day this week.
Yep. Anyway, for anyone who doesn't know anything about WWE, some deleted scenes were released this year for the 61st anniversary of the show. And while these scenes were likely cut for time, they help explain certain areas of the story that initially left audiences confused and contributed to the overall feeling that everything was being rushed. The disappointing finale was an unfortunate result of a season that slightly lacked direction.
Slightly? That's like saying the Titanic slightly sank.
Yeah, just slightly. You lost a few inches to the water, yeah.
Well, I mean, sometimes you have to cut some scenes to make sure that you get, the doctor kissing a dude.
Yep, there it is. But these scenes...
Yeah, they literally used a dog whistle to do in their opposition. I mean, come on, people.
Now, I would say, first of all, that the whistle was absolutely the tip of the iceberg. Absolutely nothing compared to the much bigger problems the series and this episode in particular, Empire of Death, had in general. There were half a dozen serious problems with the finale of this series that left people completely confused, bewildered, and jaded. So we can get to them a bit later, but they're making it all about the whistle. And one particular detail of the whistle, not, as Ryan correctly pointed out, that it was fucking ridiculous, but more that no one knows where it came from. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I have a brain, and I was able to just sort of assume that he pulled it out of the cobbled together memory TARDIS thing that had bits of everything, and like literally every square inch of that fucking box was useful to them for that exact episode in the ultimate Deus Ex Machina. But I figured that was probably it. And yeah, it's still an example of how the episode sucks, but the smallest of problems. But apparently for them, it's a big deal that the whistle was just round his neck. Okay. So anyway, one of the strangest goofs in Empire of Death is when the Doctor uses a whistle to get Sutek's attention in the final showdown, but the show never explains where this whistle came from.
It's probably just his rape whistle.
Yeah, probably. The moment is played without much explanation, which led many audiences to correctly assume that its introduction had merely been cut from the episode. If it's not a major issue, well, then why is it worth an article?
It's so weak.
And it doesn't fundamentally change it. Exactly. It doesn't fundamentally change anything about the story. Wow. Wow, did you miss the mark with this one? You fucking hack. Who wrote this? Who wrote this? Jack Walters. Oh, it's a white dude. Oh well. Oh well.
Because I know a person by that name. Can I have a look at the face, please, Will? I know it's very small.
Let me try and open it in a new link and see what I can find. This dude. Oh, he's like 13 years old.
Oh, he's got a bachelor's in modern languages, so
that's not how I know him.
But,
no, it's
he British? It's the British Harry Sisson.
Oh God!
Last seen walking out of Keir Starmer's fucking bat nest at 3 o'clock in the morning. Anyway, so they've put it out that this is an absolute nothing burger that they've decided to write an entire article about and attempt to pin all the problems of the series on this fucking whistle. It says the whistle's inclusion has always been a jarring moment. I mean, not as jarring as, say, the gay kiss, the time he spat on Ruby Sunday when he was raging about something he perceived and only he perceived to be about race.
Talking about getting a snowman from
snowmans. Yeah.
I mean, there's
screaming into the void as the universe died, as opposed to just being a bit stoic about it. Crying
every 5 minutes.
Every 5 minutes, yeah. What else was jarring? Oh, how about the drag queen that was all the way through the second episode? What else? Pretty much
the
everything.
Dick generation. Really.
The ending where the ending of 73 Yards, where old Ruby travels back in time TARDIS-less to stop herself ever being created, and thus stop herself being able to stop herself being created.
Right.
Lots of jarring moments. The whistle was a flinch at best. But okay, we'll keep going. Maybe they won't completely embarrass themselves as this article goes on. Spoilers, they will completely embarrass themselves. Whistle aside, that final showdown against Sutekh is one of Empire of Death's more confusing sequences. Sutekh was hiding in plain sight. No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't in plain sight. He was invisible. I mean, that's literally the opposite of hiding in plain sight. He made himself undetectable. But once he makes his presence known, he's immediately thrown back into the time vortex using a dog's lead. We're British, thank you. It's a very underwhelming moment that seemingly comes as a result of the episode's heavy focus on exposition and frustrating misdirection, leaving little time to wrap everything up in the end. Yeah, well, it was just really badly paced. You could have used half of the previous episode for that.
Right.
Go on, mate.
Yeah, there's like a lot of like wordplay and like sometimes like, how like the master, like the word stream is a way that is pseudonym for the master, right? I'm just wondering if Sutekh is like supposed to be like the suck.
When Nkuti sees the destiny leaks, he's thinking, boy, I gotta get me some of that.
Is this the destiny leaks that we were talking about a week ago?
Yeah, about him sucking a dong. Apparently Nick Fuentes' dong.
Oh, Nick Fuentes is right. By the way, for anyone who needs thumbnail content, strongly recommend.
Oh, Tomby would love to get a hold of that one, I'm sure, and do his normal flair for open mouth.
You could put
everything you just said. The last like 15 words out of your mouth are all painting a very different picture than the one you are trying to paint. So, what are you saying exactly?
You can put a speech bubble to the left or to the right and have it say, "Oh, free dildos."
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
Destiny. I didn't know you
Tomby likes to, he likes to superimpose dragon dildos onto images of people with gaping open mouths. So, I'm just saying it's rife for that. I think Tomby's still in the chat, so clip it.
Tomby, if you want to go ahead and get this image, I would recommend more that you just go to the article that we're reading and get it there. It's much better than what we're offering on this show. Anyway, yes, now that is a bad pause, Mephisto. You're right. Anyway, a deleted scene, and I want to stress this because I've read this article about an hour ago. Perfectly explains the 14th Doctor's whistle. Now, how perfectly do you think this is going to explain the existence of a fucking whistle that no one really cares about in the first place?
As great as a modern language bachelor's degree holder.
I just thought it dropped out of a compartment in the memory TARDIS, and that's how he got it. That's how I
pretty much
explained it. I mean,
we
know where it came from.
Fill in these gaps. It came out of the TARDIS. So not the first time the Doctor's mysteriously had something on his person we didn't know he had, that he obviously got from the TARDIS, and he kept a secret just for dramatic emphasis or something like that. He's done it before. Smith's done it before. Everyone's done it before.
A literal dog whistle to do in a dog.
I mean, I guess it's just fucking whatever. Anyway, still not as stupid as that rope and those gloves, but whatever. A deleted scene perfectly explains, or the fact that Sutekh just allows Ruby Sunday to put it on his collar. Why doesn't he bite her in half? There's like a 5 or 6 second period there where she just reaches up and goes click, and he just lets it happen. Anyway, I'll stop building up to it. Needless to say, this does not perfectly or even necessarily explain anything. In fact, it actually raises more questions. Thankfully, Doctor Who's anniversary deleted scenes finally explain where the whistle came from in the first place, and it's so much more interesting, guys, than anybody could have guessed. The scene was deleted from the moments after Sutekh's defeat in Empire of Death, so it's after he's gone. They explain it. They're trying to restabilize the ship. When Ruby asks how the whistle was so effective, the Doctor reveals he actually received it from a future version of himself.
Wow.
I thought he wasn't allowed to do that.
Yeah.
Once again, time travel.
Do you imagine when he encountered himself, his first words were, "Blow me"?
I mean, surely he's a massive narcissist. Once again, time travel comes in handy to save the day and explain how the Doctor came so well prepared for his fight against an enemy that he didn't yet know about. Yes. Well, I don't know that he didn't know about him because he received the whistle right before leaving the TARDIS or something, didn't he? And then, no, before they went out to Williams' place, which never should have existed because the world ended in 2024. Then why was it around in 2042? But anyway, this is fucking nonsense. But let's get into it. He then uses the TARDIS to pitch the whistle to the perfect frequency. How do you do that with a basic bitch whistle? Doesn't have holes to put your fingers on to change notes or anything like that. It's just a referee's whistle.
Throat skills. Is what it is.
It would have made more sense if it was like a recorder or a fiddle, because he can fiddle with his wand.
Perfect.
I'm sure he does plenty of that.
Anyway, so he uses it to the perfect frequency, whatever that means, before opening a panel in the ship's floor and revealing a time travel passage to the memory TARDIS, where they'd been trapped earlier in the episode. He passes the whistle to his past self, knowing it will save him later.
He did it through like a time vortex glory hole.
Okay. So, at this stage, I'd just like everybody to give me some kind of reaction to this, because did this actually fix anything?
What the fuck?
I'll be honest with you. I've never watched the episode because I stopped in the middle of the season. So,
okay.
If you ask me what I think, it sounds really stupid, but it only confirms that it's good that I stopped watching because everything looked dumb to me. So I'm just like, fuck it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
watched
it is
secondhand through Gary.
Right. Fair enough. Well, so here's how it goes. They fucking hell. They've been traveling around in a memory of the TARDIS, a memory that was generated by trying to actualize Ruby Sunday's memories of the night that she was given to the orphanage, which would be impossible as she is a day old. And so that doesn't make sense. But somehow, through a series of her memories, the TARDIS is cobbled together and they are able to extrapolate it when Sutekh appears and travel through the majority of the episode using a TARDIS that is effectively a broom cupboard. It's nowhere near bigger on the inside. It's like maybe 3 times as big on the inside as is on the outside. And it's got bits of every era of Doctor Who in it. So you've got Baker's scarf and the Sixth Doctor's jacket and Sylvester McCoy's jumper with the question marks on it and lots of that kind of crap. And
sounds like a whole bunch of nostalgia bait masquerading as a story point. Yeah.
It doesn't even make sense that they'd be able to pilot this thing. It makes no sense. And let alone freely travel through time using it. It's utter bullshit. Then of course, Sutekh's wave of death takes over everything, and thus does all life and potential life in the universe die, except on this one random planet where he goes, where one person is still alive or something who can't remember anything, and then they die. So then they decide to travel back to 2042, where the evil prime minister guy, the Welsh guy, Roger Ap Gwilliam, had apparently been doing mandatory DNA testing of people, and they go back to 2042 to use his technology to finally answer the question of who Ruby Sunday's mother is. The unfortunate problem with this is that it's the 2042 that would be in the future of 2024 when Sutekh killed the universe. So how was anybody there to even have a UK for there to be a prime minister of, and any population for DNA testing to even happen? So that doesn't make any fucking sense. Finally, they get Mel gets possessed by Sutekh through time, and they are brought back to, I guess it's still 2042, but they're at Unit Tower, and Sutekh is there still sitting on top of the TARDIS as a giant dog. And then Ruby Sunday ties a lead around his neck because he's so interested to find out who Ruby Sunday's mother is. It turns out she was nobody, but apparently Sutekh bought into it like a viewer of the show. For for no reason, despite being the god of death, he was somehow a little unnerved by the fact that Ruby Sunday has a mother who no one knows who she is and may or may not be someone important, but turns out not to be. So in all the confusion, Ruby snaps a lead around his collar, and then the Doctor, using this dog whistle, manages to pull him off the TARDIS or blast him off with some internal laser, and then they get in the TARDIS or something, and they're piloting the TARDIS through the time vortex, and then they just basically let go of Sutekh, and the time vortex kills him. The very same time vortex that he freely traveled through in Pyramids of Mars, and while being attached to the TARDIS for thousands of years in secret, somehow now kills him. But not before he shreds open the vortex and kills Death, thus bringing everything back to life.
Why didn't they just make a sonic whistle, and have that be foreshadowing somewhere earlier in there?
The allegory of it is, John, a black man with his white girlfriend.
What's it always about that? It's like Ryan.
With their car, attaching a dog to the car with a long piece of rope, and then dragging it through the fucking streets, and then letting it go, hitting a fire hydrant or something. Yeah. It's disgraceful.
It doesn't make sense either, because of course the time vortex was the very thing that Sutekh was using, although it was a particular corridor of time in Pyramids of Mars. But he's been exposed to the vortex all this time while riding on the outside of the TARDIS for thousands and thousands of years, and now suddenly being exposed to the time vortex kills him. It's strange. So there you go. Price of Reason. That's your Cliff Notes version. And they're saying
sounds awful, as awful as the non-clip clip.
It absolutely is. I gave you all the detail you need. Trust me. The only thing I left out was the dialogue. So you've got a good 80% of the cringe. So that's terrible. And all of it is using this whistle that he just sort of had on him for some reason. And that part is a fucking nothing burger compared to the rest. But now we find out that the perfect explanation of why this whistle was there in the first place is that he gave it to himself from a hatch on the TARDIS that goes. Yeah, I'm sure he.
Why do you think they deleted it? Because they knew how stupid it sounded.
Well, I mean, he's giving him. He's not just opening a hatch to an earlier version of the same TARDIS. He's opening a hatch to the memory TARDIS. Yeah. That doesn't really exist and shouldn't be able to be piloted. And
right, but do you think that they figured out that it was even dumber than they initially thought, and they just deleted it?
Well, they're claiming
it was even dumber.
They're claiming here that it was strictly done to keep the runtime down, because it says that Empire of Death is one of the longest stories in the season, and there are plenty of important narrative threads that needed to be wrapped up. Guess what? None of them fucking were. Before it could come to a conclusion, Empire of Death needed to resolve the mystery of Ruby's birth and failed. Come up with a legitimate way of sending Sutekh back to the time vortex and failed. Follow the Doctor to the ends of the universe. Didn't really accomplish that. And include Ruby's reunion with her mother in just under an hour. This means there was barely a minute to spare. So that's why they cut it.
Yet it felt like such a bloated episode. The last 10 to 20 minutes didn't need to be in there.
It was awful. Yeah, they did. They smashed. Sutekh was dead by 2/3 the way through that thing.
Yeah.
Is it like so many other Disney series where they take way too long to get to actual plot related things, but then drag on just stupid conversations?
Yeah, it somehow managed to do the Lord of the Rings thing where there's 4 moments where it should have ended. I mean, I'm not saying that they did that wrong in the Lord of the Rings, because they did exactly what
the Lord of the Rings earned their false endings. This just sounds terrible.
That's actually what happens in the books too. So it does end with Sam saying, "Well, I'm back." So there's that. But yeah, this did that too, and wasted almost half an episode on it. They didn't need to have so many of these scenes playing out the way they did, and it's a giant waste of time. But what's that? Real White Nation Gaming, is Doctor Who still going? Sadly, yes. I thought it wouldn't be, but it is. So anyway, yeah. So the point is that they've basically pointed out here that this is the biggest problem. The whistle is the biggest problem for why season 14's ending was confusing.
Sure. That's the issue. So they're trying to make a straw man out of a dog whistle.
Yeah,
I don't know why they brought back Sutek to begin with.
No, well, I wrote here, the whistle is nothing compared to the giant gaping plot holes that are everywhere in this season. Why did Sutek care who Ruby's mother is? Why, if Ruby's mother is no one special, did she have the power to scare the shit out of the drag queen dude? Why did it keep snowing? Why did Roger App Williams' future still happen even though the universe died in 2024? Who was around to launch his policies? For that matter, how did just interacting with the old version of Ruby in 73 yards make Roger give up on politics entirely instead of just hating
that?
Ruby
I
like
saw.
everyone else?
That was really, really dumb.
Yeah. Did Kate Stewart quit Unit 2? For that matter, how did Ruby change the future? By somehow interacting with her apparition on what we can only assume was her deathbed. How did she travel through time? And why wasn't it addressed that by stopping the Doctor from stepping on the fairy circle, she then stops herself going through the whole story and ultimately being there to stop the Doctor from stepping on the fairy circle? Doesn't RTD know what a time paradox is? Rotten trash, up and down. The whistle is the tip of the pooberg. There you go. And I really hope that anyone who is watching this will go over to that site and upvote the shit out of that comment, because it's the most coherent writing on this entire fucking page.
What did they actually say at the end about Ruby? Did they discover who the mother was, or what?
Yes.
What did
Yeah.
She's nothing.
It turns
she's
out
nobody.
they go back to Unit. They go back to Unit after Sutek is dead. They're back in 2024. Everyone who died is now brought back to life at the moment where they died, so it's all undone, perfectly normal as it would be. And then they go back there, and then there's just sort of this ding, and it turns out that Unit had the ability to do DNA testing all the time anyway, so I don't know why they didn't just ask them in the first place, why they even bothered to go into that weird time window thing and start cobbling together Ruby and her whatever's memories to try and create a replica, like recreation of the scene, when they could have just, tested her DNA apparently, because it turns out her mother is just a normal woman who lives somewhere, and then Ruby goes off and introduces herself to her, and there's a whole big touching scene, which is actually really played out quite well with some good acting. It's probably the
why
only
did she
good
leave
part
her
of the
then?
episode.
Was she just a
young woman, couldn't afford it, had a bit of a bad relationship with her father or something, and didn't think she was equipped to raise a child.
She was underage.
Yeah, she needed to focus on her me time.
Was that established?
Yeah.
That she was underage? All right.
she was
okay.
underage.
Of course, the father was abusive. I mean, how could
I don't know if it was the
that
father.
opportunity?
I don't think it's the father. I think it was her father or something.
It
So-
doesn't matter. The bottom line is the same.
Well, because
all fathers,
they left it that they had managed to reestablish communication with Ruby's father as the episode ends, and nobody seemed perturbed about that at all. So there you go.
Look, the most dangerous creature in all of creation that scared even the god of death was a single mother.
Yeah, a single mother who put up her child for
That's
adoption.
how dangerous they are, folks. Carry on, Will.
There you go. Yeah, a single mother scared the god of death. No, that is perfectly it. Excuse me. Still got that fucking cold. Yeah, it just played out like that. Basically, there was a reunion at the end. Then Ruby and her two mums and her grandma bid farewell to the Doctor, and Ruby said she couldn't go with him because she was trying to piece her life back together, and they reckon they can get in touch with the dad. And she wants to do that, so she's not traveling with him anymore. There's a big, overblown, you're amazing, no, you're amazing, let's both burst into tears kind of thing. And none of it felt earned, of course, because it felt like they'd been traveling with each other for about 5 minutes, during which time, of course, he had almost got himself killed a couple of times. He also almost got her killed while he was chasing some strange alien cock. There's just multiple times like that he completely fucked up Ruby Sunday in this series, and now she doesn't want to go with him, and that's quite justified. But what they never explained was why Sutek would fear something like this. Why wouldn't a villain like him just go, "Your mother's no one special, otherwise I would have heard of her. Die."
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, It sounds like just as lame, if not even more so than the abysmal Star Wars trilogy.
I mean, why did Sutek come out now instead of at any point after Ruby Sunday? Like,
well, it doesn't make any sense because I remember the last episode of the Tenant Doctor. This bastard, one of the first things he does after defeating the Toymaker is getting a massive hammer and smashing the TARDIS into two. Do we have two Suteks now, or are they just going to completely ignore that?
Well,
Sutek was clearly a jobber for that crazy old bitch who was foreshadowed throughout the show, who's going to be the main villain for this coming season.
Mrs. Flood, yeah. Who no one gives a shit about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's done. The goodwill is dead. It doesn't matter what they make now. This is why no one's excited for the Christmas episode, even though Moffat wrote it. Also, what we do know about the Christmas episode now is that it's about a hotel that's managed to tap into the powers of time travel. Isn't that exactly something else? Like, didn't Moffat already write
God Complex?
Yeah, it's the same premise, isn't it?
Although in God Complex, they were all contained in the hotel while the Minotaur was hunting them. Every room was like each person's darkest fear, and the Doctor initially got it wrong, like embrace your fears and doubts, and that was actually the wrong thing to do. So if they are going to do something like that, but twist it the other way around, where the Doctor is either trying to find someone or someone's trying to find him or hunt him, then that would be an interesting premise. But who the fuck would want to chase this thing? If he's chasing someone, I can understand that person running away through time and space because, damn, I don't want to be the next Magic Johnson.
There you go. Anyway, that'll do for that. Let's talk about some villains. Last time we talked about the Daleks and the Cybermen. We can still talk about them. It's a free for all. Anyone want to bring up any particular villain that you appreciate, either from the old show or the new show or the postmodern show? Although there's really no villain to enjoy in this iteration of Doctor Who. Go ahead, guys. What do you want to talk about?
I'd like to bring up the first new Who monster that was brand new in terms of an antagonist, from my perspective, and that would be the Slitheen. Now, I know in terms of filming, the Slitheen two-parter was the first thing New Who filmed back in the summer of, I think it was 2004. Yeah, I think it was 2004 because they filmed them the year before. And that was a very, very hot summer, folks. There was a heat wave summer. And those suits for the Slitheen, big, bulky, a bit janky. That's why they had to add a little bit of CGI for when they were really running. The people in those suits, the people in those suits were boiling. And it was supposed to be, a solid two-parter. I think it was the first two-parter of New Who, with what was supposed to be these compelling villains who were dressed up like politicians, and of course the farting shits and giggles for the kiddos, that sort of thing. But it was an example of an attempt to create a new monster as a villain, and it unfortunately falling flat. Now, the kiddos loved the episode. They were terrified of the Slitheen. That's why the Slitheen as a foe got relegated after the first season of New Who into being one of the big bads for the Sarah Jane adventures, where the suits got redesigned. They got that big collar to, stabilize the head with the body. And they would only, through creative license, instead of having 3 body suits, they'd have one, but change the collar color to differentiate.
I never saw them in Sarah Jane. Were they actually the Slitheen crime family?
Yes.
Right, so they weren't just any old Raxacoricophalopatorians. No, okay.
And they were actually quite good. And as the seasons or series went on, they added another one. So there was 2 models. They also added a little kid one. It was just as fucking brutal. But the point is, I think the Slitheen are a compelling character. It's just that they were released in the wrong way, and big bulky suits in record temperatures is never a good idea. But I always found them to be interesting characters, and I grew up with New Who. I grew up with the Sarah Jane Adventures. They were legitimately terrifying. Aliens coming out of skin suits. That's fucked up, man.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, it implies, well, it doesn't imply, it confirms 100% that the people that they are impersonating have already been killed. So there's that.
And scooped out.
And what you don't get to see is always more terrifying for a kid than what you do get to see.
They get scooped out, and what happens to the bits they scoop out? Do they eat it?
I don't know. Is there like just a huge cupboard full of entrails and organs in Downing Street somewhere? Fucking don't know. They were better than I think we've given them credit for in the past, but only when you compare it to, you know, Jodie and beyond.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They were hokey. They were dumb. They were kind of creepy too. They were pretty creepy. Yeah.
And they were like physical for the most part, folks. They have these 3 claws, these big claws, and they were physical. Very, very rare that they were CGI, except for the few scenes where they were running through corridors, because the things were so damn bulky that they would literally shake apart if they were running in them. But I thought they were compelling characters. And as a New Who villain, I think it was a solid start, but poorly executed. But it did go to show, and yeah, that's the Doctor Who version of them. They have the collar. The collar was gray. In the Sarah Jane Adventures, they have a full collar, which they call like a compression bracelet. It compresses their bodies to fit into human skin suits. And they covered that with a collar to make sure that the seam, because there is a seam on the side, you don't see the seam between the head and the body. And one of the reasons why they put the CGI in for those corridor scenes is when they started running with the suits on, the heads would bobble and sometimes fall off. And there was a lot of like technical stuff in those heads and eyes and the mouth. So if that broke, you've got like a Slitheen stroke victim. Only one side working.
Jesus Christ! Yeah, that does sound bad. Yeah, the Slitheen were like an entry level kind of, what do you call it? Like a statement of intent. You know what I mean? They're like RTD saying, "Okay, we're gonna have some fun here, but don't forget these things can very, very easily kill you, rip you to shreds, and put your body on like a skin suit." You know, which. You know, you can. There's a balance, which I feel like they got kind of right in some ways. There are probably too many jokey scenes. The farting was ridiculous. Like it's like, okay, what are you trying to do here? Appeal to kids who are a little bit brave and not too afraid and can stand to watch these things, or you know, kids who are just looking for stupid fart jokes like Ren and Stimpy kind of shit. You know, and don't get me wrong, I love Ren and Stimpy.
Well, just disguise them as fat people, and the compression chamber around their necks, purpose built to put them in, but it's not quite good enough, which is why they need to get into fat people. I thought that was a very interesting idea. Of course, the farting gives them away in a certain sense, but these fuckers are vicious, and that whole 2-parter around Aliens of London World War III. You could argue it was a little bit of a political story, and I think it was done right. It was RTD's fuck you for the Iraq War back in 2004, 2005, a few years after the fact.
Is that the owl I can hear?
Yeah, the fucking owl.
Yeah.
Bang your fucking wall, John. Get the cat to piss on
owl. Can you be quiet, please?
Owl
he said no. He told me to fuck off.
But yeah, these characters.
Yes, that's why we're talking about Doctor Who. Keeps going who.
They're good characters, and I think the practical aspect of them is the cream of the crop. But at time of release, they were considered a disappointment. That's why you didn't see them in Doctor Who past Series 1, and they were relegated to the Sarah Jane Adventures, where they had great stories in that show.
If you'd made a more serious story with them, where I mean, okay, yeah, they take over Downing Street, they impersonate all the leaders of the world, and almost plunge us into World War III. Fairly serious. If they weren't also stumping around going the whole time, you know. So if they did that once or twice at the start, but then they got increasingly more terrifying towards the end, it probably would have worked out better. But there you go. I don't know. Anybody else have any thoughts on the Slitheen?
I mean, you know, it was kind of like Doctor Who's version of Scooby-Doo, kind of
a little bit
monster of the week. You know,
except in reverse, you pull the monster.
That's what I was going to say. Except in reverse this time, instead, it's a monster hiding inside of a person rather than a person hiding inside of a monster.
Yeah.
What does Price think?
Got any thoughts?
Just kind of there. I don't know.
Fair enough. Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about the silence or the priests of Silencio, if you like, because they kind of get overlooked whenever we talk about stuff like this. We always forget to sort of mention
I think the silence
them.
Definitely,
they are fucking terrifying, right? I mean, they're another home run for Moffat. I think they're a little buried by the fact that season 6 is so lopsided.
Yeah,
but ultimately, imagine a fucking creature that not only can it electrocute you and kill you, but you can't remember it as soon as you look away.
Right. Yeah, it's the Scream painting come to life. But I think N. Cutty would love this monster, because those are cock fingers right there, folks. I mean, put that in the right place, and N. Cutty will be howling to the moon in no time.
Yeah, that's a big fucking finger.
Yeah,
no doubt. Yeah, that's a pretty fucking huge, actually. I don't know.
They actually remind me a lot of the G-Man from Half-Life series. So you know, but like an entire like species of G-Man.
Yeah, I mean, I just find it, you know, really unnerving, and I did at the time, the idea, because it's playing on the same basic premise as the Weeping Angels, in as much as, you know, whereas if with them, if you blink, they'll kill you. With these, it's like blinking's not the problem, but if you turn around or you leave the room or you run away from them, you immediately forget why you were running.
Right.
So it's that same kind of, you know, you have to, there are basically parts of your body, actions and reactions like blinking or memory that you don't have full control over, that can let you down and absolutely will, and these things will prey on that, and that's how they get you. And it's fucking horrifying, because every time
it's the foreshadowing, though, Will. I mean, we would always see throughout Series 5, the series rather, before the silence came into full view, where they get referenced, or the concept of the silence gets referenced.
Silence will fall,
exactly. And then that evolved again when the question is asked into Series 7. Silence will fall when the question is asked Doctor Who. And this is the thing about Stephen Moffat,
that kind of
folks.
a bit.
He tries to tie everything together, but it's so confusing and convoluted that halfway through,
they never should have had Doctor Who be the question. They never should have had that. Like, that no one would ask Doctor Who, because lots of people have asked Doctor Who in the show's history, and then of course I think Rose said Doctor What, just to be funny, you know, just to be different. But surely then the universe would have collapsed when any of the other companions who've ever asked Doctor Who, you know, asked the question. A more pertinent question from someone genuinely wanting to know the answer would be, what is your real name? It wouldn't just say Doctor Who. Right. And the way that it was played out was so horribly over the top as well. And that, I think this is all what contributed to the silence being kind of forgotten a little bit, because I remember before
I thought it was just because everybody looked away, and you know, like
yeah. when the Moon 2-parter came out, me and my friend were like talking like, "Oh wow, he's done it again. These guys are going to be everywhere now. We're going to see these lots of times." We never saw them again. Like one time or twice, maybe we saw them again. They're fucking.
Well, Series 6 is divisive because of its convoluted, confusing nature, and it's all bottled together, folks, because the overarching storyline is the vanguard of Series 6, and there's always a danger in doing that, famously with Star Trek Deep Space Nine towards the end of it with the Dominion War arc. The arc became the vanguard, so you had to watch all of it to get the full picture. And as a result, ratings for Deep Space Nine went from the high millions, low tens of millions in the beginning to mid millions to low millions towards the end. I mean, the Netflix model before Netflix was really the vanguard of media. I mean, streaming services, that sort of thing. And there's always a danger to that. Having overarching stories bleeds out viewership. And if not enough people watch a show, that's it. Game over. You're done in. It happened to Star Trek eventually with Enterprise, and it's happened to Doctor Who eventually with the position we find ourselves in. Of course, the quality has dropped like a stone, but this is why solid standalone episodes, maybe a solid 2-parter, is the way to go. If you want an overarching story, for it to be the cherry on the cake, fantastic. But if you try to create this confusing, convoluted, all-in-one series, expect people to go, what the fuck is happening? Okay, I'm going to take a step back.
What the flux is happening? Because
that's another example.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Like,
I like them. Yeah. I thought the silence was good. I agree with you. I think it's sort of it reminded me of old school Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also like the G-Man aspect because there's a whole bunch of connections. Like they keep going back to the moon landing in the 1960s, and it just kind of like it fits, you know, the motif of the season, you know, because like everything's wrapped around the Doctor dying and like the day the Doctor dies and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, you know, they worked really well for the story they were in, but I think that's the thing is like they don't lend themselves to much outside of that. Although you would think that they would, but they just, I don't know, like it did its thing, and then they've never really been revisited in any way, shape, or form. Not that I can remember.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean they should have got a bit more, but then unfortunately they're victim of being underdeveloped a little bit because we don't know what species they are, as far as I'm aware. Right. We don't know really anything. We don't know any homeworld information about them, how they came to be, or anything. We just know that they are the priests of the silence, and
sometimes the less you know, the better. It's actually it adds to the mystery that you don't know.
Yeah. You're right. They have fucked up a lot of things by telling us more about them, like the Weeping Angels, for example. Yeah.
What Moffat tried to do with the monks in season 10 remind me a lot of what he tried to do with the Silence, this race of beings that try to control humanity's development.
Destiny, yeah.
It's very interesting how Moffat brought in the monks when he could have easily brought in the Silence to fill the same role.
Because I thought it would be the Silence when that actually aired. That's one of the only things I can remember about that. I was like, oh, cool, it's going to be the Silence. Oh, wait, what the fuck are these? Okay. The problem is they didn't get any real development. I didn't need to necessarily know too much about them, but it would be nice to know what their actual race is or what their real name is, because they're only established as part of this plot where a renegade faction of the papal mainframe has gone to try and stop the Time Lords coming back through stopping the Time War, or stopping the Time Lords from coming back as they would when silence falls, when the question is asked, they will know which universe to come back to. Thus, the Time War would reignite and it would destroy everything. So that's why they think they need to stop the Doctor. Although that is badly explained.
Yeah, and it's explained in a throwaway line while the Doctor is speaking in that spaceship church. Mental.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I mean, we got good things out of that. Like we did get, I still maintain A Good Man Goes to War is a hell of a thrill ride, pretty much all the way through. With the twist ending as well, which is great. Very much enjoyed pretty much all of that, and I like the two-parter at the beginning. I still maintain that the biggest mistake of that series was having a single-parter as the finale. You could easily have dragged that out. That time has stopped world, into 2 or even 3 freaking episodes,
right?
To do that proper justice, and ditched a couple of the others to get around it. But ultimately, I suppose it is what it is. The silence are underused. I don't think we'll see them again. I kind of wish we would. I'd like to see that, the terror of the concept, because again, it's Moffat playing with concepts, and when Moffat plays with concepts, it's always very good. When he's coming up with a villain, you always end up with something fucking scary because it attacks you on a level of, like I said, something about yourself that you can't necessarily have real control over, like your ability to remember something that you have been, wiped from your memory. You've had it wiped. You can't stop them doing that unless you have those little attachments on your eyes, eye drives, to remember things that to have like external memory for your memory.
They kind of look kind of like the quintessential gray alien, and so like there's some aspect of that too. Where
they're supposed to be in the 60s, aren't they? So they're supposed to look like what people thought aliens would have looked like in the Roswell era and stuff like that.
It's the Scream. It's the Scream painting.
The Scream face as well. Yeah, they do look like that as well. I thought they had a lot of potential. I'd like to have seen more of them. I definitely don't want to see more of them now because I don't want to see more Doctor Who now. I want it to die and just be allowed to rest in peace. But in another universe where none of this woke shit happened, maybe we got a good episode of The Silence.
The idea of villains who take on the Doctor because they understand the danger Doctor poses to creation is a great villain to have because of all the positives the Doctor does. The Doctor also has done a lot of bad things throughout his travels, whether we like it or not, folks. He is a great danger, and that's why the rogue faction literally captured a child and molded it to try and kill the Doctor. Of course, he's smart enough to turn that assassin into his wife, but that just goes to show the lengths folks will go to stop this madman in a box.
Yeah, I've been doing some reading on some various fan sites. One was going into how the Silence, when they actually kidnapped Melody, they evidently made clones, and those clones are also evidently supposed to be. So like this is the multimedia, so I don't know if we really count it as full on canon, but it's stuff that's in there in the stories. So like it starts kind of, for as much as like Doctor Who's supposed to be unique, the Doctor and the Master, being the main kind of things, they really kind of open up the idea of how many Time Lords or proto Time Lords are out there that can actually do regenerations. And then when you go and you factor in like how they have like the bi-generation now, it really kind of starts to, I don't know, it takes away a good bit of the uniqueness of the Doctor, but it's got me thinking, and I need to, I'm starting over from season 1 basically and just going through and trying to like, I'm just going to try to like piece this all together. Figure out like if we're seeing the narrative of Doctor Who, like, somewhere in the middle of what is already a Swiss cheese reality that's been, destroyed and recreated however many times over already. And so like we're, only able to kind of get glimpses of things because a lot of these enemies that we think of could be variations of the Doctor, in actuality. Because
different parts of his greater personality, which only adds weight to the idea of time travel is such a dangerous invention that it needs to be wiped from existence because it is causing all of this chaos everywhere. I mean, look what happened when the Daleks got time travel technology. The devastation they wrought to creation, and only the Time Lords could stand in their way, thus creating the Time War, thus threatening all of creation. Had time travel as a thing not been developed, none of this would have happened. This is why, if it ever does become possible to time travel, whether it's to the past or to the future, it must never be developed, because the consequences on creation will be catastrophic, especially for beings such as ourselves, and all these villains and heroes are just light and dark mirrors of our own nature.
Right. But yeah, no, I'm at the point now where I'm, like I say, I got to do more research into it, but I'm starting to think that maybe the Dalek themselves, they've actually said it a few times, like the Doctor's a good Dalek. I actually am now believing that that might actually be the case, that the Dalek...
Yeah, he's a predator.
Well, not just that he's a predator, but he actually is a Dalek. And he's also a Cyberman, and it might not necessarily be him, it might be him as the master, and we're just kind of seeing this whole thing kind of spill out.
I refuse to accept the canon of Jodie's stuff, so there is only one
I wouldn't know
Doctor.
anything about that yet, fortunately, but unfortunately,
for the Doctor to be anyone other than the Doctor, you'd also have to accept the Timeless Children, because that's the only way that
bitch did turn into a weeping angel, so
Anyway, any other villains, guys? Price, do you have a villain?
Yeah.
Go on.
Oh, sorry, John. Did you want to say something?
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I'm kind of old school. I like in Genesis of the Daleks when they introduced Davros. I think that's like a classic villain. Yeah. It's well done. It's memorable. It was a nice addition to the lore of the Daleks, and I thought that it's also peak Doctor Who for me. Tom Baker. It had Sarah Jane.
Yeah, it sure did. Yeah. I mean, Davros is a fantastic idea for a character in the first place, because you want to know more about this guy, so much more than you do know. You get to see him in Genesis of the Daleks. You get to see the Daleks in their breaking away from the Khaleds in the first appearance of the Daleks, but Genesis of the Daleks really is the one where you get so much information on them, but it only leaves you wanting more, because Davros is so divorced from humanity and yet still outwardly looks human.
Right.
That's why it sticks in your head, I think.
It sticks, because it was just. I remember the first time seeing it and just thinking, this is so interesting, and I just liked everything it was doing. It just had in it everything that I like about Doctor Who, but I understand it's not one of the more modern ones, because we saw him later, but I've gone for a picture from the modern series because I felt like the makeup got progressively better and better. Much better. It obviously, if you look at the one from Genesis of the Dalek, you could tell, that it's not the best makeup. It just looks much better. But I still will
didn't you see Davros and think to yourself, well, this is an allegory of people in wheelchairs.
Yeah.
We can't have
I was going to say we'll get to that, but go on then.
No, that was RTD said some stupid thing like that, right? Because now he doesn't want him to be in a wheelchair. I thought that was so stupid, and
that's why we've got bipedal, walking, talking Nazi Davros now.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
Just dressed like his officers are in Genesis of the Daleks.
It ruins the whole point. It ruins the whole point of what made the character interesting. The fact that he's in that contraption.
His handicap didn't stop him from being such an evil son of a bitch. Was actually the thing that made him an actual draw for a villain. You know, 'cause
Right.
it's like,
Is this
like,
what Elon Musk is going to turn himself into, ladies and gentlemen?
Nah, George Soros more like. Was he? I can't remember anymore. It's been so long since I've seen it. Was he always disabled then?
The first appearances of him, he was half.
He modified himself to prolong his life.
Even the
and
first
he
time you
used,
see him, he's in that.
He's already in the
kneeling
Dalek
around.
casing,
Yeah.
right?
and that's
Right. So
and he
we don't know for sure canonically whether or not he was disabled or whether he did that to himself, right?
Well, I was always under the impression that, first of all, he did that to himself to prolong his life, and then he saw an opportunity to win the war, because there was a war going on, to use those innovations to create the perfect warrior, the perfect thing, based off of his own creation. It's this God complex which led to his downfall on more than one occasion, and that's why it's very important to understand, folks. When you mess with the natural order of being, you will go insane and create things that are equally as insane.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Davros is technically he's one of the first transhumanist, villains. You know, and so like
there's something unnerving about it. There's something that speaks to you. Well, for me anyway. There's so much actually I want to say about this. Like, first of all, I'm terrified of zombies. I'm terrified of the Resident Evil games, the early ones, even now still a little bit. The first one especially got me when I was like 11 years old and really fucking lingered in my nightmares for years to come. But because the thing that terrifies you the most is something that looks human but isn't, and is trying to attack you and kill you, right? Something also that can't be reasoned with. And Davros really, there's not much reasoning that he's capable of anymore because he is effectively a Dalek. Then there's the other question, which is why I think so many people remain fascinated, just to keep the parallel going with Resident Evil. Why so many people are fascinated by the backstory of Umbrella Corporation and so much like that. Like, how the hell do you get to the point where you think that doing this is a good idea? And the same can be said for Davros in exactly that same sort of parallel. It's like, okay, I really would like to see the sequence of decisions that led to this. Like, what made you think that this was the solution to all of life's problems?
Well, a quest for supremacy, a quest for supremacy, and a quest for immortality. So many horrors throughout human existence have been built upon quests for supremacy and quests for immortality, especially among some of the more crazy, power-hungry maniacs out there, folks. When you try to seek to become something that is, number one, forever, and forever is a long time, that creates all sorts of sick, twisted ideals where the ends do justify the means, and extremism is taken to 11. The Daleks are a great manifestation of this concept because they have a quest for supremacy. They are the supreme beings. Anything that isn't them is to be exterminated. I mean, the whole concept of them turning other people into them, which was unfortunately added, I believe, in New Who, that's something the Cybermen do. It's not something Daleks should do. The Daleks only do that when they get desperate and on the back foot and they can't find a conventional way of creating their own kind.
We know that as a child, he got lost in the battlefield. He had an interaction with the 12th Doctor, and that happened. Then we get like there's some other books. I know there's a lot of books that explain his backstory, so maybe I should dive into them or something if I ever really want to know the answers to these questions. But then we pretty much just catch up with him when he's already decided that this is the solution to like completely destroy your own humanity and turn yourself into a machine.
Now,
but
out of curiosity,
but then he also, just a sec, he also has still got the vanity to not completely turn himself into a Dalek. He alone remains partially human, at least in appearance. Although obviously eyes sewn shut and a big Dalek eye in the middle of his head and stuff like that. But he's still got an arm. He's still got, the controls there. from the waist down, he's a Dalek, but from the waist up, he's a man still very much in appearance. And I know
spooky too.
Yeah, it looks fucking horrifying, you know. So you can't seriously tell me that people go out of their way to look terrifying. Although I could be just being naive because I know that war makes people go crazy, and Davros was born in a war and felt he had the ability to stop it. Yeah. But then, of course, you know, it didn't work out because the Daleks killed the Thals and they killed the Carlets, and they, you know,
that's about one-upping one another. Right. We've seen this with the Second World War when the Allies and the Axis were constantly trying to one-up each other. With the Allies, it was all about quantity rather, not quality. Quantity of numbers, quantity of tanks, aircraft. But with the Axis, especially with Germany, it was all about quality, the best possible tanks, the best possible aircraft, the best possible soldiers. And that's how they one-upped each other. And the Daleks are a fantastic example of this. The ultimate machine, combining an infantryman with a tank. That's essentially what a Dalek is, and it has flying capabilities. For all we know,
they didn't at the beginning.
Well, it didn't at the beginning, but it is essentially a combined arms warfare machine of land and air, and if it was properly sealed, if the casing was properly sealed, it would probably make a good submarine too. It is essentially asymmetric warfare bottled into an infantry unit that is also a tank. I mean, Peter Capaldi's doctor described them as mini tanks. They are the war machine bottled up into a single thing.
As you're equating it to World War, since I have not seen it, does the walking, talking space Nazi version of him, is that like a version of him from earlier in his time stream, or is it just completely
it's supposed to be him before he began the experiments on himself, I suppose.
All right. So,
although, to be fair, I never watched it. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I was going to say I haven't seen it myself. That's why I was asking, because I mean, like I saw, you know, I've seen the episode with Capaldi, of course, where, you know, he's dealing with like young Davros and he has to decide whether or not to actually help him or just like let him die, you know, in that moment. And ultimately, like, you know, that's kind of like the whole thing where it's like, you know, don't become the monster that you're trying to hide from. And, you know, that's kind of like the impetus of that specific episode.
It's a bit of a callback also to Genesis of the Daleks, because the Doctor there has a dilemma whether to, when he's playing with the wires there, he has a dilemma if to blow the place up.
So what do we actually think about this?
I'll reserve judgment until I actually watch it, I guess. But
I mean, this was a clip that they showed, right? I remember this wasn't
just
an episode.
Children in need.
I saw it and it was super annoying.
Yeah.
I hate it too.
I mean, the one clip I saw of it was just, it put me off of the whole thing, like, because it just, I don't know, like, I mean, I'm going to have to get caught up so that we can do the stuff in January.
Continuity is very important, ladies and gentlemen. So the continuity of the character of Davros needs to be maintained throughout all the different iterations of Doctor Who. I know, as far as I'm aware, that there have been 3 different actors who have played him, 2 in Classic Who and 1 in New Who, and I believe that guy who we just saw was basically Davros without the makeup. The makeup routine, I'm sure, is a long and laborious process, but continuity is key in this day and age. I mean, a Dalek still looks like a Dalek, even as a result of the many changes Daleks have gone through. The same can be applied, especially to the Cybermen. They have had many iterations, 5 or 6 around that figure throughout their history, but you can still tell a Cyberman is a Cyberman. And that is very important. A character, any character, has to maintain their character, because if you don't have that continuity, it all collapses.
Right.
You don't want to do a backstory of Davros that's 5 minutes on a charity drive. It's very jarring. But Price, you brought it up. So what do you have to say about Davros?
About the not the children's one, just the regular one.
In general. Yeah.
I think it's a good villain, and I think that it's one of those that I liked it in the original Doctor Who. I liked how they incorporated him into the new Who, even what Ryan was describing, that they had that dilemma with a Capaldi and a child Davros. I thought all of those were very well done. It's become one of those characters that you look forward to once in a while encountering, and especially because of his relationship with the Doctor, it's just always interesting to see.
Yeah,
I don't know. They haven't brought him. In the episodes that I saw with Shooty, I didn't see him, so
right.
I'm trying to remember. I don't think they brought him to Jodie, did they?
Davros?
I think wasn't Jodie all flux bullshit?
It was.
I started skipping some of the Jodie. I just came back for her final episode because I was told that she would be gone. But
I skipped everything of her apart from bits of the Timeless Children and then her regeneration.
That was my last episode. I think the Timeless Children, I just said, okay, I'm out. And then they said, wait, there's Flux. And I'm like, I don't care. Fuck
yeah, that's right. That's right. They did a regular season and then they did oh no, you have to watch all of this. And by that point,
right, it's so important.
People had already checked out that, and that's,
they tried to do like Trial of the Time Lord or whatever it is. Like they wanted to do something that it's like an arc of some, I don't know. I couldn't even be bothered by
a serial like they used to, but it didn't work.
They were going for that kind of Colin Baker because there was that whole at the time there was kind of a problem with the production and they did the Time of the Trial Lord, but that one actually came out pretty decent. Whereas the Jodie Flux thing, I don't know. Judging by the final episode, I couldn't tell what was going on there, and I couldn't even be bothered by it.
But it just goes to show, though, how the quality of the show has just gotten worse and worse as time goes on, and that can be reflected with how characters have been treated, whether it's by analysis of classic Who or the analysis of new Who, and especially in the analysis of Disney Who. I mean, it's hard to find a compelling villain that hasn't been shat on. The Daleks have been shat on. The Cybermen have been shat on. Davros has been shat on. The Weeping Angels, to a lesser extent, have been shat on. The Sontarans have been shat on. It's hard to find a compelling character.
Sontarans used to be evil, and then they kind of made them goofy and not evil or something. Am I right?
It's crazy.
Why did they do that to them? They used to be like kind of scary and evil, and suddenly they made them they're like sensitive.
Well, during the war, the flux capacitor, because it ain't a fucking arc, it's a capacitor. They Chinballs tried to make the Sontarans as they were during the classic era, and it looked worse, not better, than RTD's attempt to create the Sontarans, first in a serious manner with the Sontaran stratagem and Poison Sky, and then in a less serious matter with Strax, the nurse.
Yeah, right. I don't know. They didn't do well with them, but I do think that Davros, at least everything that I've seen, I feel like it was one of those that they didn't ruin. I didn't see them ruin it, so I'm still happy with it, I guess. But
yeah,
I mean,
I want to see, like, I would like if in a world where Doctor Who was going to be okay and might pull through this crap and go on to get back to what it's supposed to be. I would have liked to have seen a real kind of deep dive into Davros, like what the hell went through his mind to convince him to go from being obviously at some point a Thal or a Khaled rather to being this, because again it's like I'm saying with the whole people want to know the backstory of Umbrella with Resident Evil. A mind, this is so far from anything a person could rationally decide for themselves.
Well, I mean, we say
even
you say
worse
that.
than a tranny, you know.
I know that's where I was about to go. I was like, you say that, but we live in a world where people actually, just for whatever reason, decide to just start cutting off body parts. So
that's as I said before, Will. It's a quest for supremacy, and it's a quest for immortality. In Davros's case, I mean, he was born into war, and the the primary aim of all warfare is to win, and also all warfare is based on deception. It became more about him as time went on, because he knew between the Khaleds and the Thals, the war would never end, because he had born and bred into it, grew up in it. So as the war went on and as his own health declined, he built back better. First himself, then his own race, and then he threw his own race under the bus to trick the Thals, and then the Khaleds became the Daleks, and the Daleks ultimately won the war. They carried out their objective. They ended the war to end all wars on Skaro. If it could work on Skaro, it could work everywhere else.
It's just strange, the like no limit approach to this kind of thing. It's so alien to most people, to try to hack yourself to such an extent that you become this. But yeah, as correctly pointed out, TJ Steve said, there was a phase when he was just a head too, just connected to a bunch of wires on a life support system or something. I can't remember exactly the context for that, but
I always thought that was a decoy.
I don't know what the hell was going on there. I can't remember when that happened either in his history. So
that was when he was the great healer on that planet. I think it was during
or something.
I think it was during Colin Baker's run as the Doctor. Davros was the great healer, and he lured assassins to him by this decoy, this head decoy of Davros connected to a machine to lure out assassins, and then he done those assassins in after they did in the decoy.
I guess maybe, but I know, like, there was a good little multi-parter with Colin Baker and Davros. Actually, I can't think what it's called now, but I enjoyed that. A lot of people get on Colin Baker, but I quite enjoyed that. Davros, one of the better villains, definitely.
Colin Baker just didn't seem playful enough for me as a Doctor. It seemed like he took himself a bit too seriously at times, and he probably would have been better as a villain than the Doctor, in my opinion, because he's not a bad actor, but somehow I didn't get like a playful kind of Doctor from him.
That'd be a great idea. That'd be a great idea, Price. Former Doctors dressed up as characters that would make new villains for Doctor Who. Like one-off villains.
Could be cool.
I mean, it would go kind of along even with like the little thing that I've got going in my head currently too, about how the Doctor slowly but surely becomes his own worst enemy, and he's just fighting himself throughout space and time, because there's countless versions of himself crisscrossing.
Shooty gets so bad he's shooting up heroin and chasing Dick.
Well, I mean, like that's my headcanon is currently is that the bi-generation is the beginning of the Master, I mean,
the Master was on Gallifrey at the same time as the Child Doctor.
Oh I'm well aware, but that's the thing though, is like I'm going at it from the idea that we're seeing this like somewhere in the midst of like, how many.
I gotta say, if they retconned it so that the Master is actually the Doctor, I'd be beyond pissed off. I'd be as pissed off as I was with the Timeless Children.
I'm still confused at how the Timeless Children affected the Master.
I don't know that it did. Did it? I mean, except I don't know. I haven't watched enough of it to really know. I guess
watched it a long time ago, and I tried to delete it from my mind, but it was it was the young diverse girl that was pushed off the mountain, and then there was like a white Terran stealing all of her Time Lord capabilities.
It's not a compelling story. It's as simple as that, and it's a great way to boil down that whole situation. It's not a compelling story. It comes from a writer who isn't compelling. It comes from a Doctor who isn't compelling. So why
and also there's a message that they wanted to inject there. There's propaganda. It's pure propaganda.
That isn't compelling, and nobody here watched, so why should it be discussed? In all honesty.
Well,
I guess
watched
we'll
it.
get
I
we'll
did-
get
I
I mean,
did
we'll
watch
get to
it.
it in a couple weeks, unfortunately, but
Months.
yeah.
we'll get to it when we get to
We'll
it.
get to it soon. Enough. We're still gonna find ways to put this off every month.
We may just fuck it. We might just sack it off. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just talk
Um,
about the Doctor Who games. Go through
Right,
each
right.
game
Well,
every episode. Remember
you know,
Doctor Who Top Trumps from PS2? That was
Yeah,
a
have
great
you-
game, wasn't it?
Have any of you
Who puts
guys
the
ever
Top
seen
Trumps game
any
on
of
PlayStation?
the actual production Daleks or Daleks? When I was living in Seattle, at the Rock and Roll Museum and Hall of Fame that they have, not the Hall of Fame, but yeah, they had a whole they did like this whole display on like sci-fi villains and things like that. This was like 15 years ago when I was living there. And I actually got to see like a Dalek up close and personal, like as much as I could behind glass, But I don't know. Have you guys ever actually seen them? They're pretty sweet because I think it was one of the original ones
I've
from the original
seen a
series.
Dalek at the BBC Television Centre.
Right.
When I was there a couple of times for work and peer research. But yeah, other than that, no, not really. But I guess it must have been a real used prop at one point.
Yeah. I saw a Dalek in a shop that was on sale. I think it was about 80 to 90% scale of an actual Dalek, because it was about, I think, 5'7", 5'8", and I think these Daleks are a little bit taller than
They are
that.
very big. They're pretty good size,
and
like,
they
'cause,
look
like,
small on the screen though. That's the
Right.
that's the optical illusion, the kind of trick. But I saw one of them in a shop, and it looked quite compelling. It was a few £1,000, so I'm not going to.
They were the Daleks were 5 feet when they first appeared, but they became 6.5 feet when Moffat made them Power Ranger colors.
Yeah,
But
but
they were
yeah, the
noticeably
one I
taller.
saw, I think, was owned by David Ballmer, or like some rich ass
couldn't-
had up in the Pacific Northwest.
Well, I couldn't believe it was on sale. First of all, it was probably custom made. But could you imagine buying an 80 to 90% scale Dalek from a store, and then trying to transport it? You can't put it in a car. You can't take it with you on the bus. What the fuck are you going to do? Get a truck, put it on a truck.
You'd have to
and
put it
then
on some kind of trolley or car.
And then when you come,
Push
and then
it.
when
Some
and
wheels
then
in
when you and when you come home and unload it, all your neighbors see, what the fuck is that? And it's a Dalek.
I don't know. I think most people would recognize a Dalek if they saw
Yeah.
one. Even before I ever watched Doctor Who, I knew what Daleks were.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can't imagine seeing one like IRL.
I mean,
Well, I mean, I have.
yeah,
Not a moving
yeah.
one. but-
and like I said, they are pretty impressive. Like it's a good 5.5 feet tall from the ground up. Like what would be impressive is like with these new modern ones, you could probably if you find the component or the I guess blueprints for it, you could easily probably make one that you could actually drive around like a little mini tank.
Yeah, that would be cool. Actually, I would maybe one time just want to get inside a Dalek suit and like roam around in it just for a laugh. That would be kind of fun.
Yeah.
If only just to scare the shit out of people. Maybe see if I could go through the mall and with the voice modulator and everything, just literally go, "What's up, bitch?" Can somebody get me a McDonald's? That kind of thing. Just
Right.
saying just random shit that doesn't make any fucking sense.
The future of personal defense on the street. Buy a Dalek today. You can get into it. You can see 360 degrees, and it'll protect you from ravenous gunfire. A literal, suit of armor to protect you. Plus, the DLC is the flying ability, so you'll be able to go anywhere at any time. Could you imagine if they made that? Like a full-scale Dalek that you can hop into, roam
It actually
around.
flies.
It flies, and it has a gun for self-defense.
I mean, give it another, 10, 15, 20 years. I'm sure, we'll probably
Want to roam the streets of Chicago safely? We'll buy a Dalek today, and you will not get killed.
Yep, that could work. How about this?
We have never watched Red Dwarf. We are not familiar. All Earth television is human propaganda. The works of Shakespeare were written by a Dalek. All Beethoven symphonies were written by a Dalek. What about Mandy by Barry Manilow? Was that one of ours? It was not. I didn't think so. We have nothing more to say. We have never seen Red Dwarf. Now
You got some friends, right?
I got trolled by a goddamn Dalek.
You would make a good Dalek, right?
Excellent, most excellent. Maybe they can help me deal with Atreus and Kada now.
See, almost anybody would by now have a clue what a Dalek is, even if they've never seen Doctor Who. And they're just they used to at least be very much part of the British pop culture scene. That was just a thing,
He's a Smee. He's a Smee. He's a Smee. He's a Smee.
There you go. So we have a little time left. We need to talk about the Christmas Invasion.
Indeed.
Which was the first Christmas special of Doctor Who. The one that came out in Christmas 2005. Difficult time to be stuck in, of course. You had to do something about the fact that you had got rid of the Doctor at the end of the first series.
Show
it
still
is
wasn't
in many ways
widescreen format. It was still in 4:3.
Was it?
Yeah, I just watched it again this morning, and 4:3 aspect ratio.
It doesn't matter. Anyway, yeah. So the Christmas Invasion was not only a very iffy time for the show because you've just had a successful launch. People are really digging what you've made.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of it, the Doctor dies, regenerates into David Tennant, and no one knows who David Tennant is. So much was riding on this Christmas episode. It really had to absolutely nail it. And some people say it did. Some people say it didn't. Nobody has anything bad to say about David Tennant's first appearance, but let's discuss it. What do you guys think of it?
I think it was pretty interesting with the initial misdirect with the Santa enemies. I think what do they call them? Dogfish or not dogfish, but pilot.
Oh, he just called them pilot fish, but that just basically means that they're steering. They're ahead of the school. Just the big fish are coming.
Right. But no, at first it was like an interesting misdirect in a way because like it kind of made me think a little bit about like the nesting consciousness, that had happened with the first episode of the first series that had come out. Because like they have that plasticine look on their faces and all that kind of stuff, but then like it ends up being the Cyrax. I can't even pronounce it this morning. Sycorax, yeah, the Sycorax.
Cyrax is Mortal Kombat.
Right. Well, the helmets that they wear look kind of like that, oddly enough. And then like they remove it and they end up just kind of like being like this, fleshy kind of face with bone around it rather than bone with flesh around it. It
kind of makes you wonder why they need a helmet so much when they've got an exoskeleton, but okay.
Right.
But there you go. Yeah, okay. So since we were doing villains earlier, the Sycorax, what do we think of them?
Oh, they're compelling.
Rubbish,
I think they're a compelling villain.
They would have been, but they kind of got genocided,
And the reason why they never returned...
They were rubbish, though, weren't they? I mean, the second that they're only a threat because the humans who are dealing with them have no idea what the hell they're doing.
Right.
And then the Doctor literally tastes the fucking blood. He goes, blood control. He goes,
and
blood
then
control.
Presses a button to stop it,
Yeah, literally turns it off with one button. It's just basically a fucking parlor trick.
Right. And even like their threat is just that. It's a threat. They can't even do
They can't actually make anyone jump. Yeah.
Yeah.
At least they look kind of scary.
They certainly look scary. If they were to just march down the streets of London, they could probably do more damage than they did with their stupid plan.
I honestly think that they had the helmets on the majority of them, because when you watch the episode again, like the bone structure, you can tell is also latex, and it's just kind of like, I think they wanted to limit, how much you actually see. And so like with most of them just kind of wearing that helmet, which is more intimidating, makes them look, I guess, maybe more warlike, whatever the deal is. But
and they are they are a warlike people, at least one,
certainly,
that would try and scare the opposition to submission, and when that didn't work, just go in all out and do in a population, because I'm sure it wasn't their first rodeo. They just never encountered something like the Doctor, and I think the Doctor was aware of that and treated them.
What do you think their plan was then? What was their plan?
Well,
I can't remember exactly what they were trying to do. They were trying to get world leaders to like surrender or something.
Yeah, it was a
voodoo spell. They were doing like a voodoo spell on people.
Yeah, a conditional surrender.
Yeah,
they were either half your population die, or a third are sold into slavery. I mean, that was trying to scare the opposition into submission. It's a tactic that ordinarily would work with lesser
It's
people.
too bad they didn't invade now. Most of the people in power now would be all for letting half the population die.
Right. Well, I think, because they were all living on that makeshift kind of asteroid spacecraft that they had, I think that ultimately what they were looking for was, a way to kind of like
home.
Planet, and they just need a new home world. But I don't know, like they had a lot of promise, but then right at the end, like they just get wiped out because
So I mean, I remember this episode as being good. Like it was actually, apart from when my friend tried to force me to watch an episode, and I did enjoy it. I then went and I managed to get hold of as much of the David Tennant stuff as I could get. So the first episode I actually sat down and watched by myself was this, and thus began my journey. And I had a fucking great time with this. I was like, whoa, what the hell? This is really weird and cool, and But actually, looking back, the Sycorax kind of sucked. But would they have won if the Doctor never woke up?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because it's recent years are living proof that you can scare a population into submission.
Right, right. Very, very true.
I know it seems crazy by the standards of 2005, Christmas 2005, when this was released, because people have it in their minds that against all odds, humanity shall prevail. Let's face it, folks, if enough people are terrified, they will lick any boots they can to survive.
I just want to get back to normal.
Exactly.
New normal. We're going to have to accept new normal with half the population dead. Yeah.
Or a third sold into slavery, which would have been financially profitable for the Sycorax. I don't know whether they had a home.
The SJWs would have gone through that. The SJWs would have rather seen half the population dead than 1/3 sold into slavery.
Right.
And from my perspective, because I don't know the complete backstory of the Sycorax, let's just assume that they were the last of their kind, and that's why the Doctor was so pissed off that they were, let's face it, folks, exterminated. And they were essentially going to colonize Earth. They were going to have a subspecies to serve them, in this case, humanity, and that's how they would rebuild. But if they were just a warlike race with a home world, going from system to system, basically scaring folks into submission, then, doing them in would be more understandable. You do in raiders who would raid village after village. I mean, in feudal times, that's why you had lords of the land, to protect the people against the bandits and the raiders. And in exchange for that protection, you have to pay a slight tax. And when the taxes were too high, that's when you'd face rebellion.
Yeah. Although, Harriet Smith is ultimately, Harriet Jones is ultimately the villain by the time it gets to like the last few months.
Not necessarily.
I
wanted to talk about her next anyway. because she's got an interesting arc, of course, because in the Downing Street two-parter, she's a scared MP who's totally irrelevant and ends up becoming a hero as a result. And then, of course, there's the joke that she keeps telling people she's the MP for Flydale North or whatever, and no one knows who she is or even where that is. And then, of course, by the time she keeps telling people Harriet Jones, Prime Minister, everyone keeps telling her, yes, we know who you are. So that, of course, is a nice joke. But then, she has an interesting arc compared to everybody else, because she was in that Downing Street situation. Then she was handed the keys to power. Then
with the Slovene, actually. So
with the Slovene,
Exactly.
So she was terrified, barely made it out of there, and then ended up Prime Minister. And very quickly, obviously, you can tell that the experiences she had were certainly leaving an impact on her, because she clearly decided way before the episode takes place that she was going to bring the fight to the aliens if they needed to, and fuck you if you're not going to do it. And then, of course, there's the whole day where the Doctor's not around. It's only at the 11th hour that he actually shows up and wins the day, but until then, everyone looks like they're in big trouble. But she still has Torchwood, of course, which we don't know about yet until the end of the episode. But then, of course, she kills them. She blows their spaceship to Kingdom Come in cold blood after they've already decided to flee. And it says she's doing it as a warning to any other alien species that would be thinking of invading Earth.
And her fundamental point that the Doctor is not always there to protect the people, to protect humanity, is ultimately proven right through the Dalek capture of Earth, along with 27 other planets or 26 other planets. And he's not there until the last moment to protect them. So I think her point is ultimately validated, and ultimately she paid the price with her life to ensure that he could return.
In Series 4.
But his core point, her core point was absolutely on point, and you can tell that is the case, because when the Doctor commits her downfall, the consequences are dire for humanity and also for the Doctor himself, because it allows the Master to rise.
Yeah, of course. It's just interesting that she's still portrayed as the bad guy for what she does. And, that's because, of course, the Doctor takes massive exception to her just going on the offensive when they'd already won. The villains were fleeing and they were safe. But she can't be convinced of that, because this is not the first time this has happened. She keeps thinking about her responsibility to keep people safe. The fact that she was in the Downing Street thing, they went through a nuclear incident.
She followed the Doctor's example. What happened to the Slovene? The Doctor blew the Slovene to Kingdom Come. And so she followed his example. That's the great danger about the Doctor's Children of Time. They follow his example,
and also his personality change.
But only he can follow his example.
But ultimately, too, like in her monologue, it's not that she wants it to be a warning to the rest of space. She's trying to keep the human species hidden, and it's more or anything. It's a threat to the Doctor, saying like,
doesn't she literally say it's a warning to any other aliens planning on invading?
No, because the Doctor, he tells them to go give the warning that the planet's being defended, and that's when she gives the order, because she doesn't want other aliens to know, because it's like, and that's when he says the whole thing about you're the monster and all this kind of stuff. So in some ways, it's kind of like a nut check. Like she girl bosses on the Doctor, and the Doctor responds by basically telling her right hand man that
she says it literally. She says it is a warning to other alien races.
Well, right. But I think that warning is to the Doctor.
It's a warning of action.
No, it's a warning.
Not of words.
She wants other aliens who may have their eye on Earth to see this happen, so that they will think twice about ever coming to the Earth, because they might get blown to Kingdom Come, just like the Sycorax.
Well, I think that it works on a couple levels though, because like I could be wrong, but it seems to me like it's more a threat to the Doctor to keep him in line. And,
it's about giving a message. It's about giving a message instead of words like the Doctor wants. Instead of that, it's actions.
Force, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't do that. That's his thing. He never does that. So
I liked in this episode how they were able to sort of overcome the whole Eccleston situation, because I thought it was rather clever that they made the Doctor out of commission, because you're craving a Doctor, but you don't have one. And at the end of the 11th hour, when he arrives and the story needs him so much, and David Tennant is a good actor and his performance is good, you kind of accept him. And even Harriet Jones, there's a scene where she's like, wait a minute, you don't look like the Doctor. And he explains to her, I'm the same one. I know that you were afraid when we were in that situation, and your mother and things like that. And then she's convinced that he's the Doctor. And it's sort of also convincing the audience.
Yep.
You know, if you weren't sure,
it's a fantastic plot device to keep him absolutely away from the episode the entire time, so that you are going fucking nuts. And at this point, you'll be like, I'll accept anybody who calls himself the Doctor and fixes this mess.
Exactly. Yeah. It's brilliant, actually. It's really, really well done.
Very, very, very well done. Yeah, it is. Agreed. Most people claim that the episode suffers for not having enough Doctor in it, but I've always disagreed. I think that is one of the only ways you could have had this particular scenario result in any tension at all.
I agree. You had to do it that way. How else would you have done it?
Well, that, and like once he actually shows up, you know, it takes about 5 minutes for him to, you know, like go and take care of their MacGuffin of the threat, and then he's like, all right, well, now let's do a challenge for, you know, for like, you know, control over your people, and we're gonna have like this trial by combat basically. And then, like, you know, it takes a while to lead up to something that it only takes a few minutes to kind of ultimately play out. But that's why you need.
They play to Tennant's strengths too, because of course he's done a bit of the swashbuckling stuff before in previous roles. He's done Shakespeare. He was Casanova. He did all that stuff before. So, you know, it was playing to his strengths that he could convincingly sword fight. But then they actually shot the sword fight in such a terrible way that it doesn't really look like he knows what he's doing at all. So, so it was very strange.
Well, that's the Doctor to a T, Will.
But it is good that you get your first sort of I'm the Doctor, but I don't know anything about myself kind of moment of the modern series, which is played sort of for laughs, but also then no second chances. You know, and then he throws the Satsuma at the the little switch, and then somehow that collapses a little bit of the platform for some reason. I don't know why it does that, actually. It's like what you're always talking about when you say good faith versus bad faith. The faith was good there. So you sort of don't care that there's apparently a switch that just deletes a portion of the surface that they're standing on.
Exactly. And that's a fantastic point, Will. When you have the good faith of the audience or of the viewers or of the customer base, of the gamers, to use a gaming allegory, we can look over certain things. But when you have bad faith, and when you hate your audience, when you hate the customers, well, we're going to pick apart every single part of your project. That's why Bethesda games, historically, when they were released, they were buggy messes, but they had such good faith of the customer base that we were willing to look over that. And the reputation and the legacy of Bethesda games from the early 2000s until Fallout 4, Bethesda's reputation was great. Then Fallout 76 took it too far.
I was already dropping off a cliff quite a lot because of various things that Todd Howard had said that had proven to be lies. But yeah, so it's like what Price was saying. If you, like, a lot of people were going to be extremely skeptical of this. A lot of people who've never seen Doctor Who, which is obviously who they were shooting the show for. Principally, they figured that the Doctor Who fans would probably watch it anyway. Especially on Christmas Day, captive audience, that kind of thing. But they wanted new viewers. They wanted new people who've never seen the show, never experienced a regeneration before, to have a clue what's going on. It worked on me. It drives you insane, the whole episode. Like, the central premise is, well, you know, before you start complaining that it's a different actor playing the Doctor, How about we show you what it would be like if he wasn't there at all? You know, and and they just end up on the back foot the whole fucking time. There's like 1/3 of the population standing on top of a rooftop. You know, it's just fucking mental. And then, you know, he just sort of walks out. Finally, he gets a cup of tea, which is the best thing. You know, it's just such a.
I just remembered now. Either 1/3 of the population die, or half are sold into slavery. I got it the wrong way around there.
Yeah, they only managed to get the blood as well because they went to like the moon or something. They got
they got it from that satellite.
Oh, the Guinevere space station. That's it. Yeah. The satellite.
Yeah, because the guy. Yeah, because one of the people who gets teleported up there with them is the guy who included the blood sample, and he goes and he tries to do a mea culpa and just immediately gets killed, and then the general standing next to him gets killed as well.
That's right. Yeah, he just gets wasted, doesn't he?
Yeah.
What an idiot. Well, there you go. It's a good episode overall. I mean, you have a lot to unpack actually that we haven't talked about with the pilot fish Santa Claus things. That's a bit silly.
Oh, the fucking tree. The spinning tree.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so there's some clunky shit in there that didn't need to be really, but whatever. I guess it just enough to get the people running around and screaming. It's all there for that last 10 minutes where the doctor pops out and, you know, just walks around explaining what's going to be going on from now. Then, of course, you've got Rose, who was obviously smitten with Eccleston and isn't sure of herself with this guy. She's never seen this happen before. The first thing he does is pass out. She's left wondering what the fuck to do with him, but she wants to take care of him, but she doesn't know that she's getting increasingly angry with him, just as you are as a viewer. And then finally, he just sort of walks out, laughs at the Sycorax's pathetic technology, undoes their little bit of voodoo, kicks their ass, and fully displays, you know, again, a statement of intent. Like, this is going to be your doctor now. He's pretty cool, right? And everyone said yes. So much so that they keep fucking bringing him back.
Yeah, to lesser and lesser effect, unfortunately.
Yeah. So it's not the best Christmas special. I don't know what the best one would be. It's one of the best, I think. It definitely has that. It has that Christmas vibe to it, and crucially, it's not trying to be a fucking fairy tale. You know, where it's like, oh, the doctor's just going to mysteriously wander into Narnia in this episode. You know, like, no, it's set in the real world. It's dealing with real things that just happen to be happening at Christmas, which is what I like when Doctor Who does that.
There are no sharks in the air, Will, are there?
No, there's nothing. It's just a story that could happen at any time, but happens to have happened at Christmas, and so you get that nice Christmas vibe. You get to, you know, it's fun. That's why I like it. People should watch it again. People saying in the chat, yeah, actually, it's better than I remember. It is. It's a lot better than people give it credit for. And as Price correctly pointed out, in my opinion, I agree completely. Keeping you waiting, 40 minutes or something to get the doctor back makes you ready to accept absolutely anything.
Exactly.
It would have just sucked to think that. Sorry, James Up totally distracted me there. I'll get to that in a second. You know, the idea that people wouldn't have accepted it is ridiculous, but to play it that way just sort of guaranteed it. Like, okay, so you're going to be a bit pitchy about doctors, huh? All right, well, how about no doctor? Ha! Fuck you. Now everything's going to shit. You want him to come back now? Do you? Yes, please. Yes. Yeah, I'd like to see that very much. Thank you. Okay, here he is, and he's fucking awesome. Okay, great. It was more or less the same thing with Smith to an extent. They completely depowering him in the 11th hour, so he doesn't have TARDIS, doesn't have Sonic. All he can do is figure things out grassroots style. You get the amusing scenes with Amelia Pond and the massive distraction of it being about that discrepancy. I'll be back in 5 minutes, and then it takes like 7 years or something to come back, or 12 years. Yeah, again, it's another way of distracting you They did it with Capaldi too, actually, for that matter, because he comes back and for a change is in Victorian England with a dinosaur running around and a bunch of those
and
so,
he ends up being just living out, or he gets lost out in the streets, and they can't find him for a good bit of the episode.
Cassie's in the chat. Didn't even know that. I found out just now, of course, because of Eris Rhoda. So I will get to those things now. Does anyone have any final thoughts on the Christmas invasion?
I mean, it was definitely serviceable for the transitional element that it was set up for.
I got a feeling, just to sorry, I know I said, do you guys have any thoughts? But here's one. I think as we go through these, we're gonna keep coming back to the Christmas invasion and saying it's better and better and better and better as we go through the others. Just a feeling I've got. Yeah. But anyone else?
Yeah, I would have to say, I mean, this isn't necessarily my favorite of the Christmas episodes, but it is definitely one of the better ones.
What's your favorite?
Accomplishments. Honestly, as odd as it is, Twice Upon a Time. Like,
really?
With 12.
My favorite is Voyage of the Damned, because it's the closest. It's the closest Doctor Who will ever get to being a full feature-length movie, not a TV movie, but an actual movie.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that's my favorite as well. Yeah, because I did not like the first couple of Smith ones. I suppose Time of the Doctor counts.
Time of the Doctor's never a good one. Yeah,
that's a Christmas episode, isn't it? Yeah, it's on the planet.
Defends Christmas.
The town called Christmas on Trenzalore.
On Trenzalore,
yeah.
We'll get to that. We'll have to include that one. I really like that. I know a lot of people don't, but I really do.
Yeah,
I like Voyage of the Damned because it has Kylie Minogue in it, and
well, yeah, the star power adds to the theory that Voyage of the Damned is the closest Doctor Who will ever get to being a fully featured movie. In my
view. Is pretty cool. Yeah, I'd have to think. I don't know if it's my favorite, but I do like it. It's certainly one that I like.
Yeah. Oh well.
Yeah. I mean, like, my bias for Capaldi, I think, is kind of the thing that makes me like.
No, you just love Bill, John.
Yeah, you just really like watching the first Doctor getting shit on by her diverse ass.
I mean, like, not. That's about.
I'm going to smack your bottom, young lady.
That's about the only part where it really starts to drag, because like she's not really
the
in
Doctor
there.
Is a young man wanting to smack Bill's anus.
I can't call it my favorite. I like the idea. It's not a bad idea, basically, but it was executed horribly.
I mean, Bill's a misdirect. Like because right before she shows up on the screen. They're like you want to talk to her, and in my mind, the Doctor's thinking,
Bill. I'm John. I love to talk about
no.
Bill.
I believe that the Doctor in that moment thinks that they're referring to Clara, and instead, like when it's not her, he just kind of goes along. Well, this is my friend, But like, I'm more interested in like the larger context that it actually kind of like speaks to, but. The individual characters.
Any episode with Bill loses points just for having Bill in it, I think.
Exactly. I agree with Bryce. Can we move on?
I mean, not before
she was technically dead by that point in time.
John, here's your favorite character.
God damn it! Here's the thing. Here's the thing.
We can't see you, so I'll ask that you keep your hands to yourself.
At least she's not wearing a bra, okay?
To my credit, that's the only episode with Bill I have ever actually
probably the first time I've ever said that.
You can creep up behind her and just
probably the first time anyone's ever said someone's not wearing a bra. My immediate gut response was,
You can creep up behind her and rip it all off.
Couldn't they have at least found a pretty diverse girl? Oh, I don't know. Oh well, whatever. Anyway, that will do. Christmas Invasion, 2 thumbs up from this guy.
It's not the diversity. I mean, I don't really care. Diversity is fine if the woman looks nice. Like Martha. Martha looked great.
Yeah, Martha was all right. She was good. Yep. I've seen better, but Martha was good. Solid 7. Bill, like a 3.
Yeah. I don't know. I like Capaldi's my favorite Doctor. It was his last foray as a
You're
Doctor.
like me. You just like the Generation scene. That's it.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I never watched the season with Bill in it. Quite honestly, it's something I actually have to do by the end of the year, I guess. So we can actually kind of so we can be ready for Jodie and everything.
We already reviewed that season.
Rose, Clara,
that's
and
why we've
Martha
been trying.
all look good in my eyes.
Yeah,
well,
and Amy Pond. Amy Pond looks especially good, I think.
Amy Pond, yeah. Fuck yeah.
I think
nothing wrong with any of them.
I think I maybe got like a few episodes into Bill, but I never completed that season. And so like by the time that when I was watching Twice Upon a Time, she was dead, and I was like, oh, that's kind of nice. And so like I didn't know why she wasn't in the episode until like I was like watching through. I missed like the whole thing where like they set up where like she gets turned into a Cyberman. So that's about. I mean, there's stuff going around in that episode that I'm more interested in. It's purely because I've got like this weird working theory, and perhaps when I was watching it, I was like 4 days deep into doing like a 5-day marathon each day. So I watched like 20-30 hours of Doctor Who in 1 week's time.
When I think about it, I think Bill proves that the BBC are istophobes, because the second that it's an LG character, they can't make them look nice.
There it is. You see, that's what it is. You got to make them ugly, because they certainly didn't do that with Martha. I mean,
right? That's what I'm saying. Like, she was straight, so they're like, okay, let's bring a lady that looks nice, and then they're like, okay, Bill's LG. Let's bring an actress that's just not that spectacular.
That's Martha.
That is
Martha.
Argument.
Never had an issue with her.
No problems there.
No. But I mean, when the Doctor is a woman,
chauvinism.
frumpy cunt, and Bill's a frumpy cunt. There's a lot of frumpy cunts in the later seasons.
By the way, if you do go looking for what I would have inevitably had to search for to find that picture of Prima, you will also find nudes. I did not know that existed on the internet, so there's that.
Oh,
for any
I didn't know that as well.
I have to deal with this guy in like how many hours time?
Hopefully he can find a. Just hope he has enough time to find a suitable picture of Bill Potts and rub one out before then. So
sooner to do a search on Martha, to be quite honest.
Anyway, now that's law. Now you're a fucking I
knew it was gonna be one of those things. As soon as I said it, that's why I was like, but hey,
if Mudcrab does watch this next week, I expect a pre-game super chat asking what's worse, not having seen Red Dwarf or being a simp for Bill Potts.
Yeah, backshotting Bill Potts, John. You're a backshot Bill. Backshot Bill Potts. Yeah.
All right, we gotta wrap this up.
I will die on this hill like 12 may not be the best Doctor, but he is my favorite Doctor. So
he will die on this hill. Bill Potts is hot. Okay, fair enough. Whatever you say. You're the one who worked in a porn shop, not us. So there you go. Anyway, that'll do for this episode, and we will have to wrap this up because I got family matters to tend to.
Yeah.
So we'll get on with. Of course we've got some Supremos to deal with. First of all, James up for $10. And thank you very, very much for that. Oh, yeah, laughing at Will for thinking I've not been here for 2 hours. My face is in Photoshop, but I'm always listening. Ryan, you can use that handbrake to pre-compression vids for YouTube, Mr. 480p. Yes, handbrake is very, very useful. I just got it myself for converting Dragon Ball MKVs into MP4 for my project, Dragon Ball Manga Bridge.
Well, thank you for that donation, James Opp. As Mr. 480p, I made 3 videos today in 90 minutes. Videos, shows, videos from said shows, and they're actually upscaled from 360p to 480p when I take them from this show, because I have to. Yeah.
Everything I output is 1080. Everything.
Yeah.
But I can only get it in 360.
Even if I use clips in 720, I still up-res them and sharpen them to 1080.
Yeah, handbrake is really good if you're trying to keep your file size down. But if you also have VLC, you can also just do straight MKV to MP4 conversions through that.
You can, yeah.
but it doesn't.
Most people,
there are loads of ways these days to do that.
Yeah.
Most people watching are older than me. You guys lived in a world where 480p was the norm.
Which is why we appreciate 1080.
You should love, the blast from the past. Come on,
I had
man.
a 10-inch TV screen.
Oh.
Yes, I know. I was waiting for you to react like that. That's fine. You react like that all you want. I'm just saying, Mr. Bobblehead is judging you.
Fuck you, Fallout Boy.
Anyway, I just found that today. I'm really happy I found that. I've missed that. Still piles of my shit from England. Anyway, as for thinking he wasn't here, well, I didn't see him in the chat at all. So I actually sent him a link to watch it on YouTube in case he wasn't watching it. But appreciate you being here, James. Thank you very much. Guys, go check out gamergate2.org. James runs that site, tells the truth. Always good to have an honest time capsule for what really goes on in this culture war so that we can't be smeared easily this time. He has come back again right now for another $2. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Says, dude, my frigging eyes are bad now. Upscale.
Yeah, he literally showed up right at the beginning of the show, right after you said, "I think that's everybody," and then we started moving on. He was 2 seconds after you had said the last name.
I'd already clicked off the comments tab because I needed to bring something on screen.
Oh, I know. That's why I didn't bring it up.
That
we'll get around to it.
Well, we did get there in the end. Sorry, James.
Yeah.
And Eris Rhoda gifted 5 Will of the Fans memberships. You lucky people. One of them. Wait for it to stop. And one of them, I think, went to Cult Classic Cage, which was hilarious because I didn't know she was in the chat either. So that's cool. Thank you guys, everyone, for watching this episode of WhoTF Live, episode 32. We will continue with the Christmas specials all the way through December. Anything to avoid having to do Jody this year, or ever in any context do Jody at all. Yeah, there we go. So that's it then. Basically, we'll wrap up. We'll get to our outro, starting with Mr. Price of Reason. How are you doing, mate? Are you good?
I'm good. I guess if anybody wants to, I have a YouTube channel called Price of Reason, and you should subscribe to it.
You absolutely should subscribe to it. He does very good work and occasionally pisses off whole sectors of the audience, which is always fun. I love to see that shit, man. I was really having a good time watching that.
Did you see the Wicked review?
Yeah, I did. I went back and watched it after you said so last time. It was good fun. It wasn't even that inflammatory. I don't know what everyone was getting their panties in a knot for, but oh well.
I don't know either. You know what? Sometimes people just like a certain thing and they don't want to accept anything else. And I think in this case, a lot of women, even some that are kind of more based, have been caught up under the spell of this thing. And there's just more people that like this Wicked thing, but I don't like it.
You criticized protected people. You criticized a protected group of people, Price. I call a black man's game company Spear Chucker Studios, and before you know it, people are chucking spears at me. 3 days late, of course.
After they went through Hypno Smash JT and me.
And Grums, don't forget Grums.
To be fair, I think that my criticism was more mild in that sense. You have your own kind of weird style, but I try to just stick really to the focus on the review itself, and that seemed to offend people, but I don't really know.
Got a 7-foot giant cosplaying as a fucking little toy, but I'm the weird one.
Enough. In the next review, he just stops everything, grinds it to a halt to drop the N-bomb 10 times consecutively, and then carry on with the review, completely contextless. That'd be hilarious.
The irony still remains that spear chucking is the main mechanic of the game, and that's
one of his weapons is absolutely a spear. Yeah. It's a spear made of light, but it's a spear, Anyway, is that all from you, Price? It looks like it.
No, that's it.
All right, buddy. Thank you. John, what you got going on, man?
Just typical stuff. We'll be doing Old White Road later on today, and then I've got tomorrow off, thankfully, and then we'll be back together for Will of the Fans early on Tuesday. And I'm honestly surprised. I sat here and I looked through the chat. I expected to get more shit from speaking of spear chuckers. I was expecting to just be reading one thing after another. But you guys are the only ones who gave me any shit about twice pod.
You lost for Bill Potts.
Yeah, you know, but that's
an admittance.
God damn it, no, that's
you
not.
love to backshot Bill, don't
I
you,
was
John?
you were like, God,
DWG loves BSB.
Jesus fuck. All right. Anyways, I'll just finish by saying, safe travels ahead. Have a wonderful weekend going forward. Be awesome as always. And I am not a Bill Potts sim, for fuck's sake.
I gotta find a way to make that a meme.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if next week's thumbnail has like a picture of me and Bill Potts like standing next to each other or something.
John goes through blue.
Anyways.
Anyway, Ryan.
Well, folks, thank you all very much for watching episode 32 of WhoTF Live. It's always a pleasure to be on this show. As for me, in 10 minutes' time, I will be releasing a video. 2 hours before today's show went live, I got up, and in that time, I was able to make 3 videos in 90 minutes because I am Mr. 480p. That ain't ever gonna fucking change because I can make more videos and make more shows and make more videos from said shows. Thank you very much for having me on, Will. Price, it's always a pleasure to have you on, to have a good talk with you. John, you're just Dobby 2.0. Hopefully,
yeah, you can't get rid of me. I know. I'm your shadow.
But hopefully we'll have a great talk in a few hours' time for the old White Road. Spoon is our special guest, the aristocratic utensil, and we'll have a very big panel, and I'm sure we'll have a great show. So thanks for having me, Will. Now to Will of the Fans. See what I did there.
Nice segue, thank you. Yes, well, I've got a video that came out about 20 minutes ago, I believe so, and another one out in around about 3.5 hours time. Then I will be making new content starting tomorrow. We've got WTF Live on Tuesday. We'll be talking about all of the stuff that will be getting covered over Monday and Tuesday, probably including some of that Jaffe nonsense. That guy's a glutton for punishment. Well, he's going to get it. Fucking idiot attacking YouTubers. Never attack YouTubers. We band together. Moron. Anyway, there's that. And yeah, so Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday streams, everything as normal. I'm not sick this week. I'm not feeling like I'm going to get sick this week, so there shouldn't be any excuses. I do have to put up a Christmas tree at some point, but I'll find some time for that. Work comes first, of course. And appreciate everybody for watching. Everybody who has joined the Grift Force, whether voluntarily or involuntarily, and of course everyone who super chatted as well, James up there and Mud Crab at the beginning. So appreciate you all, and Eris Rhoda, of course, for gifting the memberships, and we will be back on Tuesday. But until then, nothing else to do but wave stupidly to the camera and say see you next time.
Bye for now.
Start the car.